This is East Asia Tonight.
Good evening, I'm Natalie Edwards. Tonight's top stories from East Asia and beyond. China's top memory chipmaker CXMT soars more than 400% on its blockbuster trading debut, making it the most valuable listed company in the mainland. 3 Singaporean youths have been detained under the Internal Security Act after allegedly planning attacks in the Lion City. One of them is just 14, the youngest ever detained under the ISA. And Tropical Storm Noel may have weakened, but the danger isn't over. Torrential rain is still lashing southern China, with more than 700,000 people evacuated amid warnings of flash floods and landslides. And the two Koreas are marking the 73rd anniversary of the armistice. Kim Jong-un paid tribute to North Korean war veterans, while the South honored UN forces that fought in its defense. Also tonight, Taiwan's tainted cooking oil scandal piles pressure on the government as thousands rally in Taipei demanding accountability. We've got business news topping the bulletin. Chinese chipmaker CXMT in a stellar debut. And Roland, I've got to ask you this. It seems like AI fever gripping China's equity market again.
Yes, indeed. Yes, trading was frantic. Now CXMT is its most valuable A share on the mainland, and at one point it also eclipsed Hong Kong's most valuable H share, that's Tencent. Shares of CXMT closed more than 465% above its offer price in its Shanghai debut. Now, retail investors were in a frenzy to get a piece of the company, which was 212 times oversubscribed and drew more than 9 million orders worth over $1 trillion worth of shares. That's more than 10 times that of SpaceX's blockbuster listing last month in New York. And for more, we have CNA's correspondent Crystal Chia live from Shanghai. Crystal, good to have you on the show. It's been quite a day for China's financial markets. What was the mood on the ground?
Well, Roland, investors in China today are saying one thing. That is, they are witnessing history in the making. CXMT's listing has broken several records. In its morning debut, it quickly surpassed 3 trillion yuan, which is about 490 billion US dollars. You mentioned that it is now the most valuable company on the mainland. Now, to give you a sense of how it got there, it had to beat ICBC in the process. That's China's biggest bank. Now, on Chinese social media, CXMT was trending online. It was #1 on Weibo's search engine. Now, as you could have expected, netizens online, they were calculating how much they could have earned if they had just managed to obtain a share. So for a company that has had this highly successful IPO, it may be surprising to know that they have been tremendously loss-making only up to last year, turning cash positive. Let's listen to a market specialist with over 30 years of experience on why investors are still keen on this offering.
The critical point of CXMT's IPO is that for now, it is catching up. It is a small company relative to the peers. It is technologies behind. But once it catch up, the meaning of the China market itself, having a great access to its own market, it's going to be a lot more different. In the financial side, people may divert into two camps. Oh, this company is overhyped, or the latter part of the story is that it has a big potential. But again, within the only 10 years, this one become an IPO, and it has been consistently surprising to an upside so far, to me at least.
So once a loss-making company, now one of China's AI champions. Tell us more about the company. Why the investor exuberance now?
So CXMT is basically a DRAM company, so it makes the chips that are in your smartphones, your laptops, and a variety of consumer applications and products. It was founded in 2016 by someone called Zhu Yiming. He was a graduate of China's Tsinghua University before later studying and working in the US. He then returned to China, working closely with the Hefei government to start CXMT. Now, the key point of today's listing is that right now, the company's technological capabilities are still behind its rivals. This includes SK Hynix, Samsung, and Micron. But it is precisely this that investors are keen on, because it means that the company has room to grow, both in terms of market share and technology. Now, today's 500% surge at one point really showed the power of China's investors, including its retail investors. And this is something that's unique to the market here. China's retail investors account for 90% of daily trading volume, compared with just 25% in the US. And that is why earlier this year in Shanghai, I wanted to mingle with some of these investors to find out what they're investing in at the moment and their thoughts on the AI sector.
Every weekend, retail investors gather at this spot on Shanghai's Guangdong Road. Locals call it a stock salon, and it's been a fixture for 30 years. AI investments are a hot topic.
人工智能现在炒得很火热，但是它没有这个业绩支撑，没有业绩支撑。如果你要是买到这个山顶上，一下炒下来，一下子掉下来，你有可能就亏损这个东西。
主力的看好了，我们为什么不看好的？我们跟着主力走是没问题的。今年的国家支撑，我们的总理说了，总理也讲话了。 引导什么外资进场啊？
The surge in AI-related IPOs comes after several sluggish years in China's financial markets. 2 of China's 6 AI tigers, they're the country's top homegrown large model startups, have listed in Hong Kong, and they're now planning their secondary listing in Shanghai's Star Market, a NASDAQ-style board for technology and innovation companies. Zhipu AI announced in June that it wants to raise $2.2 billion from a secondary listing in Shanghai, 4 months after going public in Hong Kong. Minimax Group also said it is exploring a dual listing. Most of the other AI tigers are planning future IPOs. China's AI firms are pushing ahead with listings, even as most of them operate at a loss. Experts say that's because of attractive market valuations and demand for fresh capital.
The valuations for the AI company is relatively high. So when you are looking at a company, when they want to actually monetize their share, what they have been doing, this is actually a very good time to do it. But of course, when we look at the long term, all these companies, the AI or the high-tech company, they need to have actually more capital, because now it is a super competitive environment. So they need to actually drive their project in a much quicker speed.
The flurry of listings has raised questions. Is there an AI investment bubble in China?
Certain recent AI IPOs oversubscription got all our attention. However, there are isolated events, because we're only talking about certain handful. So if you say risk, perhaps the risk is contained only within those companies. If there's a bubble, maybe it's only down the road. Right now, it is only inflating, not a bubble yet. China is starting, the AI is starting, and the rules and also the wallet size is to be tested.
Analysts say investors are willing to buy into loss-making companies because they're optimistic about their future.
So as you can see, from infrastructure companies such as CXMT to large language model startups such as Minimax or Moonshot, various segments of the AI ecosystem are heading into public equity markets to raise capital. So this is really shaping up to be an exciting second half of 2026, not just for the AI industry, but also IPO markets. Roland?
Crystal, thank you for that comprehensive report. That was Crystal Chia, CNA's very own Crystal in Shanghai, reporting to us live. And I'll be back with a little bit more business news after the break. For now, Oteli.
Thanks so much. Looking forward to that. Chat more later. Now, 3 Singaporean youths aged 14 to 19 have been detained under the Internal Security Act for plotting attacks in the country. While the cases are unrelated, the youths were self-radicalized online and were targeting schools and a military base. The 14-year-old is the youngest to be detained under the ISA. The youths will be undergoing rehabilitation in detention. And Sabrina Ng with the details.
These are recreations of real-life school shootings on gaming platform Roblox. The content drew a Singaporean teenager who encountered it when he was just 12 down a path of violent extremism. Out of curiosity, the youth researched online more information about mass shooters. He then went on to consume violent gore and mass shooting content. While playing first-person shooter games, the 14-year-old imagined himself as lodging an attack against his bullies. The Secondary 2 student was later influenced by a mix of ISIS propaganda, far-right extremist ideologies and mass shooters. He idolized the perpetrators of past attacks and believed that violence against non-Muslims and gay people was justified. The teenager then planned a mass casualty attack against the non-Muslim teachers and schoolmates at his school. He had initially planned for the attack to take place during the June holidays, as he believed that there would be fewer teachers around to stop him. He also specifically identified days where his targets would be around in school for activities. The 14-year-old wanted to use a gun before settling on 2 knives from his home. ISD said the youth repeatedly watched ISIS execution videos and stabbing tutorials online.
He wrote out a 21-page attack manifesto. It set out attack plans, choice of weapons, attack targets, non-Muslim teachers and students in his school. Quite serious and quite advanced in his plans. He was going to live stream his attack, pledge allegiance to ISIS, and then take his own life.
His plan was foiled after someone at his school noticed signs of his radicalization and alerted the authorities. In another case, a 15-year-old's radicalization was triggered by Hamas's attack on Israel. He wanted to fight alongside Hamas in Gaza but lacked resources. Instead, he posted videos online encouraging Muslims to carry out armed violence. By 2025, the youth wanted to establish an extremist state in Southeast Asia. He designed this flag and used online chat groups to recruit supporters. The 15-year-old then turned his attention to Singapore, researching pressure cooker bombs and planning an attack that would cause multiple civilian casualties. He was still in the early stages of planning when he was detained. Both the 14 and 15-year-olds cannot be named as they are minors. The final case involved 19-year-old Tan Junxie, a Muslim convert who became radicalized online. He hoped to travel to Somalia to fight alongside ISIS while also planning attacks in Singapore. Tan identified SAF personnel at Sembawang Air Base and LGBTQ students at his school as targets. He also researched knife skills and planned to buy a 10-centimeter long knife from a local shop to slit his victims' throats. Tan also admitted to carrying out cyber attacks against the websites of several local and overseas Muslim organizations he considered, quote, deviant. He is the first self-radicalized individual dealt with under the ISA to have attempted cyber attacks. His acquaintances alerted the authorities after becoming concerned about his extremist views and plans for violence.
While ISD will focus on their rehabilitation, at MOE we will support their education while they're in detention. We will work together to try to help them to recover and move on positively and purposefully.
Coming up next on East Asia Tonight, China's Moonshot AI is making its Kimi K3 model available for download as it challenges leading US rivals. Hello again. Good to have your company on East Asia Tonight. Time now for more business news. And Roland, let's turn our attention to macro data out of China. Apparently, there's been a rebound in earnings for manufacturers.
Right, you are. China's biggest industrial companies reported profit growth in the month of June, reversing years of deflation for factory gate prices. China's industrial profits continue to rebound in June, but the pace of growth is slowing. The latest official data highlights an increasingly uneven economic recovery. Profits at industrial firms rose just over 15% in June from a year ago, and that's down sharply from May's 21% gain. For the first half of the year, profits are up close to 19%. Exports are doing the heavy lifting, cushioning an economy still struggling with weak domestic demand and a property downturn. The picture isn't even across sectors, though. Electronics and raw materials accounted for the bulk of the gains, boosted by the AI boom and a rebound in factory gate prices. But autos, they told a different story. Now, profits in vehicle manufacturing sank nearly 20% in the first half as car sales fell for a 9th straight month. All eyes now on the Politburo's end of July meeting for hints of fresh stimulus. Let's check in on how the market's ending the day. Shanghai Composite unchanged, Shenzhen down 0.5%. Hang Seng Index is up 3.2% for the day. China's Moonshot AI is releasing its Kimi K3 model for download. And that means users will be able to run the AI model locally on their own devices. The move comes as US tech firms remains divided over how open advanced AI models should be. Kimi K3 has already stirred debate in Silicon Valley, with benchmark results showing it has narrowed the gap with leading US models from Anthropic and OpenAI. Now, its launch also triggered a sell-off in AI-related stocks, echoing the market reaction to DeepSeek's emergence on the scene last year. The release is seen as further proof that Chinese AI firms can compete, despite tighter access to NVIDIA's most advanced chips and smaller budgets. Analysts say wider access to K3 could also benefit cloud computing providers that host OpenAI models. Now, Moonshot says daily sales have jumped more than sixfold since K3's launch. The Beijing-based startup is now reportedly seeking fresh funding at a valuation of about $50 billion ahead of a possible Hong Kong IPO later this year. Fast fashion retailer Shein has revealed slowing revenue growth and weaker profitability in its first detailed financial disclosure ahead of a long-awaited Hong Kong listing. Now, analysts say the results could weigh on the valuation it commands in one of this year's biggest IPOs. Shein posted a $99 million loss in the first quarter of 2026, as compared with a $395 million profit a year earlier. Now, revenue rose just 1.1% to $9.05 billion. Shein says the quarterly loss was largely due to weaker sales after the US scrapped a duty-free exemption for low-value imports, along with a one-off accounting charge. Analysts say the results are likely to reinforce investor concerns over the sustainability of the company's rapid growth, potentially weighing on its IPO valuation. Now, Shein is reportedly aiming to list as soon as next month, seeking to raise between $2 and $3 billion, depending on investor demand and the valuation it secures. As economies grapple with slowing productivity, supply chain uncertainty, and rising energy demand, businesses are looking beyond the AI hype for technology that delivers measurable returns. Industrial AI is emerging as the next phase of digital transformation, turning operational data into real business value. As companies move from pilots to enterprise-wide deployment, experts say industrial AI will become the proving ground for AI at scale, driving the next wave of productivity and economic growth.
Most companies apply AI to, basically to solve point solutions. They do pilots, they do demos, but that doesn't really scale across plants, across the value chain. So what we see, the way to really drive change is that you need to be able to model the industrial value chain, whether it's supply chain, production, maintenance, or reliability, through data. So you need to contextualize data through the whole value chain, so you can apply AI across to scale it across plants and across the value, the full asset value chain.
In the Gulf, dragging oil prices lower and boosting equity markets. Both the main oil contracts down by more than 7%. In fact, Brent crude is down almost 8%, $89.06 a barrel. U.S. market, the West Texas Intermediate, $82.70. Now, Iran has indicated it would halt its own attacks as long as the U.S. did the same, with the U.S. military reportedly concerned about dwindling supplies of ammunition. Equities taking comfort in the drop in oil, Japan's Nikkei rose 0.5% after fluctuating between gains and losses. The broader topics closed up the session 1.4 in the green, while South Korea's chip-heavy index, climbing 1%.
Now, remnants of Tropical Storm Noel are bringing torrential rain to southern China. Residents along its path have been urged to stay alert for flash floods and landslides, and forecasters have warned that downpours will persist through today. Well, inclement weather also reported in the northwest province of Gansu. A short and intense downpour triggered a flash flood at a scenic camping spot located in a valley. The heavy rain upstream caused water levels to rise, trapping campers nearby and sweeping away vehicles parked along the riverbank. The deluge killed at least 10 people and injured 23 others. Now, I've got Deborah Wong joining us live now from Guangdong. Deborah, at where you are now, it appears to be dry, but give us the broader situation on the ground in the largest southern China region.
So where I am now in western Guangdong, we're here because we want to understand the long-term impact on coastal communities, and because this region is also one of the most highly exposed to typhoons, especially during the summer season, and that's why we're here. And, even though Yangjiang, where I am right now, was not directly in the path of destruction over the weekend for Typhoon Noel, residents here still tell us that they experience strong winds and also big waves. And so you can understand the scale of the typhoon is actually quite extensive, even though it went up all the way to the north. Now, the typhoon so far has more or less dissipated, but we're still hearing reports of heavy rainfall, not just in Guangdong, but also in Hunan and Jiangxi provinces. We are still seeing some rainstorm rate alert. Now, that's the highest warning level. And so, torrential rainfall can still be expected all the way through this week. Rescue workers have so far been deployed to clear fallen trees, debris on the roads, and also pumping flood waters away from streets that are inundated. And there were also reports of power outages along some coastal communities. So we understand that grid workers were deployed to restore power overnight. And so far, authorities have already allocated around 100 million yuan for recovery efforts. And that's really substantial, because we have just experienced 2 other typhoons in the last 2 weeks, and we're expecting more to come.
So 100 million yuan for recovery efforts, that sounds quite a massive scale. But do we know exactly the scale of this impact from the storm?
So not just southern China has been hit by the most recent typhoon. We understand that the impact was also felt in the northwestern provinces. Gansu, there were reports of landslides there in the touristy area. There was also mudslides reported in Sichuan province, and people had to be evacuated. And so, this is also because the typhoon has moved further inland, and so meteorologists have said that the impact is wider and also more prolonged. So torrential rains can be expected across a wider region than just a smaller scale, just a smaller scale. But besides that, there's also an economic impact that we have to be mindful of. So where I am in Yangjiang is actually a touristy area. We're here in Heilingdao, and I just want to show you this area. We're along a beach right now. You can see many tourists here, and you see where that pink pavilion is. Now, this is one of the impacts of the typhoon. So people here were saying that businesses used to be along that line where the pink pavilion is, but because this region receives a lot of typhoons and big waves, they've all had to move further inland. And this is also a tourist area, so whenever there's typhoons, people would stop coming here. I did speak to some residents and some people who depend on marine life, fishing, for instance, and this is what they said.
就拿昨天来说吧，那个风刮得很大，然后那个雨也很大，这个雨伞它是吹倒了，然后我们就是整个人都去扶住那里，然后还要绑住，有些人就把这个拉住，我也把这个拉到这边来，拉条绳子，他们也拉上，但是还是拉不住，还掉了。然后我就上班嘛，昨天一整天在都戴了一整天的那个头盔，我怕什么呢？我怕那些顶有东西啊会砸到我的头，都怕了，是这样子的。然后就是他们这里面这些东西啊，上面这些藤，它都会拉到里面去，都会收得比较紧了哈。
最大的影响就是我们那个生意也会减少啊，然后那个人流量都会减少，然后海鲜啊各方面品种也会缺少一点。
因为怎么说呢，这台风今年不是有个台风在潮汕那边登陆嘛，然后我们这边就会有影响，下雨啊，我们当地这景点呢一下雨就没人了啊，所以就影响很大。现在都看见了，现在马路上都没什么人了啊，下雨会影响的，也在我们这边登陆更是没人了，风大啊，对，影响整个行业。
So now Typhoon No has already subsided, but we're hearing reports of another typhoon coming, Typhoon Dolphin. And, businesses in these kind of communities now have to think long-term about how they're going to be dealing with extreme weather patterns. Natalie.
Deborah Wong speaking to us from Yanjiang, Guangdong. Thanks for that report. Well, we've got more on the storm, and its potential destructive power can be found on our website, cna.asia, and our mobile app. All right, we're going to go for a short break now, but coming up next on East Asia tonight, Sanae Takaichi defends her efforts to boost growth as the Japanese Prime Minister's approval rating slumps from rising cost of living. And a fragile pause in fighting between the US and Iran holds for a second night, raising hopes diplomacy could gain momentum. This is East Asia tonight, and here are the headlines we're following. China's top memory chipmaker CXMT soars more than 400% on its blockbuster trading debut, making it the most valuable listed company in the mainland. Singapore detains 3 youths under the Internal Security Act for allegedly planning attacks in the Lion City. And hundreds of thousands evacuated in southern China as torrential rain continues to batter the region, triggering flood and landslide warnings. Today marks the 73rd anniversary of the armistice that stopped the fighting in the Korean War. Now, the ceasefire ended 3 years of brutal combat and created the demilitarized zone between the north and the south. But both sides remain technically at war, as no formal peace treaty was ever signed. A North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, accompanied by his wife and daughter, marked the occasion by paying tribute at memorials honoring veterans of the war. He also visited a cemetery where 134 Chinese soldiers are buried, including Mao Anying, the eldest son of Mao Zedong, the late founding leader of China. Now, state media KCNA praised their sacrifice as the foundation for the two nations' friendship. Pyongyang marks the date as Victory Day, saying it won the war against US-led forces. Seoul commemorates it as UN Forces Participation Day in honor of the United Nations soldiers who came to its defense. It hosted a ceremony that brought together about 1,000 participants from the 22 countries that provided troops or medical support during the war. The United Nations Command-Chief says that the armistice is a framework for peace that requires commitment and unwavering vigilance. The Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi has emphasized that dealing with inflation is her top priority during a press conference after Parliament concluded its regular session over the weekend. Now, opinion polls show that support for her government is tumbling. A survey by Yomiuri newspaper found that 71% of respondents do not approve of her administration's efforts to curb inflation. Now, that's up from the 56% in the previous study. And we've got CNA senior correspondent Michio Ishida joining us live from Tokyo. So, Mitch, Parliament session has just wrapped up, and the Prime Minister yet to realise the election pledge to remove a sales tax on food. What's the stance on that?
Well, Ms. Takaichi proudly said that all 64 bills submitted during the past session were legislated, and it's only the fourth time such feat was achieved in the post-World War II era. Now, meanwhile, she did not realize her political pledge of removing sales tax from takeout food and beverages. Her pledge was zero sales tax for 2 years to deal with higher cost of living. She said it's currently under deliberation, and she will wait for the results, which she expects in early August. Now, according to a manufacturer of the cash registration system, there's a need to create a new system for 0% sales tax to start operation in autumn 2027. Modification of sales tax to 1% will be quicker, shortening the period by 3 months. So 1% seems to be the more realistic option. Then there is a concern in the rural government of reduced income due to the removal or reduction of sales tax. And she said she will make sure rural areas will not be affected. Having said that, Ms. Takaichi indicated Japan's inflation or Japan's consumer price index rose 1.7%, which is lower than other G7 nations. And wages rose 1.8% or higher than other G7 countries. She lined up many other achievements during the past session: bills for free high school education, health insurance, dealing with anonymous crimes, setting up an agency dedicated to earthquakes and natural disasters, and global agreements achieved in the meetings in Asia and G7 to stockpile energy supply and rare earth minerals.
So aside from that, Michio, just going forward, what about her other key political agenda?
Well, she has identified 7 key areas, including developing semiconductor shipping to create what she called the cluster, connect with the rural areas and build human resources, support startups. She wants to create a stable economy aiming for 1% growth. And she said on the 31st of July, she will set up a national intelligence meeting and an intelligence bureau to deal with rising threats. And she aims to update Japan's defense and security documents by the end of this year to strengthen ties with its ally, like-minded nations to secure rule of law and for a free and open Indo-Pacific. And with China, she confirmed, including Foreign Minister Toshimitsu Motegi, they are in talks. Beijing has been slapping Japan with an export ban, discouraging Chinese from traveling to Japan since November last year, when Ms. Takaichi angered China with her comments on a possible Taiwan contingency. Ms. Takaichi said she looked forward to attending APEC, Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum, a meeting which is expected in China in November.
Many thanks for that update. CNA's senior correspondent Michio Ishida speaking to us in Tokyo. The US and Iran have paused their fighting for a second night to give diplomacy a chance. Tehran cautions its operations have been retaliatory, so it will hold fire as long as the US does the same. A top US official dismissed a report claiming that President Donald Trump backed off from escalating attacks due to dwindling supplies of anti-missile interceptors. Iran says that it has made progress in talks with Oman on the management of the Strait of Hormuz. The waterway has been a flashpoint for the US-Iran ceasefire signed in June. Now, the 60-day period to negotiate a final peace deal is set to expire in about 3 weeks. Tehran insists Lebanon's so-called territorial integrity is a key condition. Now, the uneasy calm comes amid mounting worries of the war widening. Now, there is no sign that the Houthis are pausing their attacks on targets in Saudi Arabia. They struck oil and energy facilities on Saturday. And they earlier claimed strikes on 2 Saudi oil tankers in their blockade of the Red Sea, threatening global oil supplies. Over in the Caspian Sea, Ukraine fired on an Iranian commercial vessel, killing one sailor. It claims it targeted vessels carrying military cargo between Russia and Iran. Tehran claims that Israel instigated the attack to drag Europe into the war. It warns the Ukrainian strike will not go unanswered and is consulting with Russia and the EU for a response. Singapore, meantime, has condemned the recent attacks on Saudi Arabia, including on energy infrastructure and commercial vessels in the Red Sea. The Foreign Affairs Ministry urged all parties to exercise restraint and avoid actions that could further escalate tensions. Well, it said it's imperative that navigational rights and freedoms are respected and upheld in accordance with international law. It added that the safety of seafarers and ships must also be ensured. Coming up on East Asia tonight, the Taiwanese government under pressure as public anger boils over from a major food safety lapse. Plus,
AI is transforming the education sector, forcing schools and even policymakers to rethink what it really means to learn and what skills students will need in the future.
A growing debate over safeguarding children and teens in the age of AI. Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party is facing mounting pressure over a food safety lapse that sparked public anger. Tens of thousands gathered at a rally organized by main opposition Kuomintang on Saturday, demanding accountability over the government's handling of the crisis involving tainted cooking oil. Now, the issue broke late last month when excessive levels of cancer-causing substance benzopyrene were found in Taiwan's food supply. And to tell us more, we've got CNA senior correspondent Victoria Jen joining us live from Taipei. So, Vic, this actually started as a food safety scandal, but now that it has become somewhat of a political issue, what does this mean, do we know, for both the KMT and the DPP?
Well, it really has become much bigger than just the tainted cooking oil incident. It has now become how much people are still trusting the government. For the KMT, this is a political opportunity. Food safety affects everyone, regardless of political views. So it's an issue that many voters can relate to. The party has successfully turned public frustration into pressure on the DPP, accusing it of reacting too slowly and not being transparent enough. For the DPP, this comes at a very difficult time because Taiwan is just over 4 months away from local elections, which are often seen as a report card on the ruling party. Now, if public anger continues to grow, it could hurt DPP candidates across the island.
So, I mean, people are also saying who should be held accountable, and protesters are calling for Premier Zhuo Rongtai to resign. Has the DPP responded?
Well, so far, there are no signs that the Premier or any senior officials plan to step down. The government says it acts quickly and is focusing on investigating the contamination and preventing it from spreading. But politically, the DPP's response could become another problem. Party leaders have largely dismissed the protests as being driven by the opposition. Now, critics say that risks making the government look dismissive or even arrogant, especially when many people are genuinely concerned about food safety. Now, whether it's fair or not, perception matters. And if voters feel the government isn't listening, it could fuel even more anger. For the KMT, this gives them a strong issue to campaign on. But for the DPP, the challenge is not just solving the food safety crisis, but also rebuilding public trust before voters head to the polls. Otelli?
Many thanks for that report. CNA senior correspondent Victoria Jen in Taipei. Now, 2 more people have been rescued from a Vietnamese vessel that sank in the South China Sea on Friday night local time. The Chinese team pulled the crew members to safety after they were found drifting at sea overnight. This brings the total recovered to 48, including 1 rescued by Vietnamese personnel. Operations are ongoing to find those who remain missing. 62 crew members were on board when Koinwin 18 went down in rough weather. It issued a distress signal near the Fiery Cross Reef, a Chinese-built island in the contested waters. Now, Chinese, Vietnamese and Philippine teams are conducting the joint search. Now, it looks like Meta is facing fresh scrutiny over ads promoting AI nudify apps on Facebook and Instagram. A new report found that the ads were placed by one of Meta's own advertising partners in China, despite the company's ban on such content. Well, the Tech Transparency Project says that one of Meta's authorized and resellers, Gather1, placed thousands of Facebook and Instagram ads promoting apps that can digitally undress women or place their faces onto pornographic videos. Although Meta removed many of the ads during the investigation, the report says related accounts continued to advertise. Instagram and Facebook are blocked in China, but China-based companies advertise on these platforms to reach a global audience. Now, the report also suggests that the tech titan is prioritizing ad revenue over concern for its users. Meta said it made $18.4 billion in China sales in 2024, or about 11% of its global revenue. Now, Meta says that it does not allow nudify apps or non-consensual intimate imagery on its platforms and takes aggressive steps to combat them. It says that advertisers who violate those rules could have their ads removed, face penalties, or lose their accounts. Gather1 says that it has suspended new advertising accounts related to AI nudify services and is undertaking what it calls a comprehensive compliance upgrade. Our nations around the world are seeing a cultural shift at schools, work, and at home. Instead of people saying, just Google it, more and more are using the phrase, have you asked AI? And that includes parents. CNA's Rani Samtani takes a look at how some mothers are approaching child rearing in an AI world and how they hope to protect their kids from potential dangers.
She asked me for my phone. So I just was like, yeah, sure, you can have the phone. And then I took the phone back after I was like, oh, what did you ask? What were you doing? She was like, oh, I just, was asking AI how to improve my race.
Why are you saying to
AI tools and chatbots are becoming the new norm, taking center stage in our digital experiences. And parents such as Jayanti York are now raising a generation of AI native children, people who will never know life without generative AI.
The AI has come so fast and now we're on the back foot. How do we actually parent around this? What do we actually do? And what are the rules? Now at this age, they're learning to use it with me, and now I'm teaching them how to critically judge the AI. And so this morning she did a painting of a footprint, and then she wanted to figure out if AI can replicate it, and then we compared the two images.
That was way too perfect. Yes, we can tell it's made by AI.
Co-use early on, definitely. Now I train myself when she wants to use my AI, I would say, okay, well, what's the question that you have? And then training her and myself to figure out the answer to that question before even turning to AI.
What do you think AI is? Or what did you think?
It's a big square of knowledge.
7-year-old Rixt Bharati has been co-using AI tools with her parents for everything, from helping her with schoolwork and learning how to tend to the family's balcony garden to launching a small t-shirt business at home.
I don't want them to be fearful about the technology. I think it won't help them to be afraid of it. I would like them to understand it, and I think you best understand it when you work with it. We can generate images or coloring pages, or we look into art together.
Anna Yorker-Breimer Bharati has embraced AI in almost every aspect of her work and life at home. She's also used generative AI tools to help produce a storybook to explain a very difficult issue to her kids.
A very personal use of AI was a few months ago. I was pregnant and we were very surprised and very happy. But then also a few weeks later, we had a miscarriage. And so obviously I was very sad. My kids saw me being sad. They were like, Mama, what is it? Did we do something wrong? And I want to be honest with them. So I told them, look, this is what happened. Together with generative AI, I was able to make that story, I think, something that kids could comprehend. It helped me have difficult conversations with my kids in a really beautiful way. And it has helped me personally also to work through it.
Upload a photo and then see if you can understand what it is, yeah?
Despite AI's potential to enhance learning, work, and home life, there are mounting safety concerns about the technology. Specifically, its potential to expose young people to inappropriate and dangerous content, disinformation, or even to manipulate their emotions.
I think that's the fear of every parent, which is why I say I'm hesitant and positive, because why you try to have a parent in the loop as much as possible. And it's also naive to think that, oh, but as long as I have a good relationship with my kids, it won't happen. I think there is a lot that parents just aren't seeing, right? It is what I'm cautious about. It's why from a young age, I want to continue having these conversations. I want them to also think when they use it.
Given Ms. York and Ms. Barati's children are still young, they say they prefer to co-use AI tools instead of letting them use artificial intelligence on their own. They recognize that will change as their kids grow older and begin using AI more in school.
AI is transforming the education sector, forcing schools and even policymakers to rethink what it really means to learn and what skills students will need in the future. This has sparked debate over how to protect children and teens using the tech and what AI literacy should look like. Teaching young people and adults to be able to discern what is real and what is AI generated is crucial, but also that AI is not alive or capable of real feelings, and that it can sometimes get things wrong. Rani Samtani, CNA, Singapore.
And that's all we have for you for Monday's edition of East Asia Tonight. Don't forget your headlines anytime at cna.asia, and you can find us on all socials, including Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow.